Welcome to our Monday discussion. Amy here.
And Tom here.
And for those of you who join us daily, you know Mondays are when we really zero in on the critical current events, uh, geopolitics, the economic shifts, basically what's shaping our world.
Definitely.
And it's been, well, a particularly intense week, frankly, quite unsettling, leaving many of us, I think, with more questions than answers.
Indeed. We've certainly seen a series of significant developments. Very interconnected, too. You've got these large-scale military exercises,
Yeah.
deeply concerning airspace incidents,
Right.
all unfolding against that persistent backdrop of the conflict in Eastern Europe. Well, it's a lot to unpack.
Exactly. Our goal today is to help you unravel these threads, make sense of what it all means.
Yeah, try and connect the dots.
So we're going to break down Russia's Zapad 2025 exercises, get into that recent drone incident over Poland, which was really quite something, and give you an update on what's truly happening on the ground, on the Ukrainian front lines. It's like a strategic puzzle, really.
It is. Let's piece it together.
Okay, so let's start with those drone incursions over Poland. That was the event that had many of us holding our breath this past week, right?
Absolutely. And it seems increasingly likely this wasn't isolated, perhaps even coordinated with Russia's broader military posture.
Okay, so walk us through what happened. What are the latest details?
Well, on September 10th, things really escalated. And it wasn't just a few drones. The updated count is now 21 Russian drones confirmed to have violated Polish airspace.
21. Wow.
Yes, and 17 of those have actually been recovered. What's particularly alarming, though, is one also flew into Romanian airspace.
Into Romania as well?
Yes, and it was shot down there by an F-16. Look, this is far from an accident. All the signs, all the intelligence points to a deliberate test.
A test by Russia and Belarus.
Exactly. The main goal seems to be gathering critical recon data on Polish air defenses. They want to see how NATO's F-35s react.
Their response times? Frequencies?
Frequencies, yes.
Yeah.
Even pinpointing the locations of cellular BTS towers, the base stations for mobile phones. And then you get the Russian propaganda.
Oh, I heard about that. The landed on a henhouse roofline.
Precisely.
Huh.
Which just underscores this is also psychological narrative warfare, trying to sow doubt, instability.
It's striking, though, the cost imbalance here. You're talking about these incredibly expensive F-35s, maybe F-16s too, advanced missiles.
Yeah, costing anywhere from, say, $400,000 up to $1 million per shot, maybe more depending on the missile.
Against drones, that might be worth, what, $5,000, $10,000?
If that. It's a massive disproportion.
So is NATO getting sucked into a really unsustainable game here? How do you counter that without just letting them fly over?
Well, that's the heart of the strategic dilemma this whole thing just laid bare. It exposed a pretty significant vulnerability, not just for Poland, mind you, but for NATO more broadly.
Okay.
Poland is building its multi-layered defense system, which is absolutely vital. But estimates say it'll take another, 5 years to reach full capacity?
5 years is a long time in this environment.
It is. And crucially, there's a gap. Right at the lowest level, the cheap anti-drone defense layer. Poland has systems, like the 14 APS stations they bought a couple of years ago.
Those are the automated perimeter security systems?
Right. Sensors, countermeasures, and they have POP-RAD systems too. But they're just not deployed effectively right at the border for this kind of threat, or maybe not kept updated properly.
So it's the classic cannon to shoot a fly problem.
Exactly that. Using these high-end assets against cheap, disposable drones. And it's not just Poland. A lot of NATO, including the U.S., struggles with this. We lack readily available, cheap, scalable anti-drone solutions.
It seems like something we should have figured out by now, seeing what's happened in Ukraine.
You'd think so. And look, the Ukrainians have shown incredible innovation, right? Those Frankensams, adapting old Sparrow missiles. The capability exists, but maybe the systemic priority hasn't been there.
And beyond the military side, the psychological impact must have been huge.
Oh, definitely. Public fear was widespread, you can imagine. And even Polish decision-makers, reports say they were under intense stress.
I read one official reportedly thought Putin's warrior war.
Yeah, Putin has gone crazy, captures the mood. But then you contrast that with the U.S. response, particularly from President Trump at the time.
Yeah.
Comments like, here we go, and not satisfied.
Quite understated, wasn't it?
Very. And that contrast, it fueled calls in Poland for things like Fort Trump, a bigger, permanent U.S. presence.
Yeah.
And it reinforced their push for 5% GDP defense spending.
So connecting this to the bigger picture, what does it tell us strategically?
It really highlights two things, I think. One, NATO's let's say, slow adaptation to these newer asymmetric threats, and two, a noticeable shift in U.S. strategic focus. Less Europe, more internal issues, more China.
Right. The signals seem pretty clear about who's expected to carry more weight in Europe now.
They do.
Okay, so against this backdrop, heightened tension, these vulnerabilities exposed, we also have Russia's Zapad 2025 exercises happening. The name Zapad alone tends to set off alarm bells.
It does, historically.
So should we be worried? What's different about this year's version?
It's a nuanced picture this year.
Yeah.
Officially, they reported 13,000 soldiers.
Okay.
But the active phase involves closer to 30,000. And if you count all the federated exercises, link commands, and so on, it could involve up to 150,000 personnel.
Still, that's smaller than Zapad 2021, isn't it? That was huge.
Significantly smaller, yes.
Yeah.
Zapad 2021 was maybe up to 300,000. The key difference now is that 75% of Russia's ground forces are tied up in Ukraine.
Ah, okay. So they don't have the spare capacity for massive maneuvers.
Pretty much. So these exercises are less about, huge troop movements and more about, as one expert put it, training brains, not biceps.
Training brains, meaning?
They're testing new staff structures, command systems, procedures, especially within the newly created Leningrad military district. That now includes Kaliningrad, importantly.
So they're adapting based on lessons from Ukraine.
Directly. This isn't just routine training. It's about refining their doctrine based on what worked and, perhaps more importantly, what didn't work in Ukraine.
Now, there were some concerning reports about the scenarios being practiced. Things like attacking the Suwalki Gap, even simulating nuclear strikes.
Yeah, those reports surfaced, and they understandably cause anxiety in the region.
How real is that threat, particularly this Suwalki Gap scenario?
Well, look, Russia definitely uses these exercises for psychological pressure, no doubt. And yes, they do practice tactical nuclear scenarios. That's actually standard Russian doctrine, integrating nuclear use at lower levels than NATO.
Right.
But a direct assault on the Suwalki Gap through Poland, most analysts think it's less likely. The terrain is difficult, and it would trigger an immediate, massive NATO response.
So what's a more plausible scenario they might be training for?
Given the focus of the Leningrad military district, maybe an invasion into the Baltic states, perhaps targeting Lithuania, to secure a land bridge to Kaliningrad. That seems a more likely focus for their training, even if the intent isn't immediate.
And the other countries participating? China, India, Serbia, Iran, even Burkina Faso.
That's mostly about optics, about propaganda. It's Russia trying to project an image that they aren't isolated internationally, despite everything. It's not really about adding significant military capability to the exercise itself.
It's fascinating, though, how much the Baltic Sea's strategic geography has changed recently.
Completely transformed, absolutely.
With Finland and Sweden joining NATO.
The Baltic Sea is now, effectively, an internal NATO sea that severely limits Russia's Baltic fleet, makes it very vulnerable.
How so?
It can be easily blocked, contained by coastal defense systems. Look at Poland's NDRA, their coastal missile division. In a previous exercise, when deployed to Estonia, they basically showed they could close the Gulf of Finland.
So Russia's naval power there is significantly curtailed.
Massively. Which raises the question, how could an integrated NATO command across the Baltic further neutralize that threat? It's a whole different ballgame compared to just a few years ago.
So, given all this, the drones, Zapad, the changing Baltic, how is Poland responding directly? What are they doing?
Well, they're not just sitting back. They're running their own large-scale counter-maneuvers called Iron Defender. That involves 40,000 troops.
40,000, that's substantial.
It is. Mostly from their 18th Mechanized Division, positioned right along the border with Belarus. And beyond troops, Poland has seriously boosted its offensive punch.
With things like HIMARS.
HIMARS, yes. Also the Korean K-239 Chunmoo launchers, similar capabilities. And their F-16s, which can deliver deep strikes, potentially up to 900 kilometers away.
So this isn't just about sitting behind a border fence.
No, not at all. Military thinking in Poland is increasingly advocating for an active defense, a maneuver-based approach. They're openly talking about striking enemy assets inside Kaliningrad or Belarus if attacked.
Taking the war to the enemy, essentially, as a deterrent.
Exactly. To make the cost of aggression unacceptably high from the start.
And then there was that very bold move closing the border with Belarus during Zapad.
Yes, a very significant decision, generally seen as a good decision strategically.
Why good? It must have caused disruption.
It did, but it demonstrated absolute credibility, a clear, hard stance against Belarus facilitating Russian aggression. Yes, it hurt Polish transport companies. hit that crucial Chinese cargo route through Mikasevice into Europe.
Which caused friction with China, I imagine.
Understandably, yes, Polish-Chinese tensions arose,
Hmm.
but it also creates leverage. China has invested heavily in Belarusian logistics for its Belt and Road Initiative.
So if that route is disrupted.
China faces problems, which potentially increases pressure from Beijing on Minsk to de-escalate or rethink its deep alignment with Moscow.
So it's a complex calculation balancing economic ties, like with China, against immediate security needs.
It's a painful trade-off, often, but sometimes strategically necessary when sovereignty feels directly threatened.
Looking at the bigger picture of Polish strategy, they're spending a lot, 5% of GDP on defense, which is huge.
Way above the NATO 2% target.
But are there criticisms? Is the money being spent effectively?
That's a really important question being asked within Poland. Despite the high spending, there's significant criticism that the political and military leadership might still be overly reliant on U.S. security guarantees.
And slow to adapt lessons from Ukraine.
That too. The lack of a proper, cost-effective anti-drone defense system, for instance. After 3.5 years of watching drones dominate the Ukrainian battlefield, that's seen as a major gap.
What's holding it back? Bureaucracy.
Critics point to internal military bureaucracy, maybe a focus on career structures over rapid innovation. There's a push for radical deregulation of Segment B.
Segment B.
Dual-use technologies, things with both civilian and military applications. The idea is to unleash domestic innovation faster. So, yes, high spending, but questions remain about the actual adaptability and effectiveness on the ground.
Okay, let's shift focus now to Ukraine itself. It's just a grinding, brutal reality there. What's the latest from the front lines?
It remains incredibly tough. Russia is sticking to its strategy of a permanent offensive. Just relentless pressure, trying to maintain initiative, grind down Ukrainian forces across many sectors.
Any specific areas?
Well, on the Sumy front, that offensive seems to have been halted, at least for now.
Okay, it's not bad.
But around Pokrovsk-Chmernarad, the situation is still described as very bad for Ukraine. Further Russian advances seem likely there. They tried to encircle Pokrovsk before and failed, but they keep pushing.
And elsewhere?
Along that border area, Dnipropetrovsk, Zaporizhia, Donetsk, Russia, is making slow, incremental gains, taking territory piece by piece, maybe stuff they think they can use as bargaining chips later.
What about near Kharkiv? Kupiansk was retaken by Ukraine, but...
Right, but now Russian forces have managed to get into Kupiansk, reportedly from an unexpected direction. The city is contested again, even though Russia has logistical problems there.
And the most significant Russian advance recently.
That seems to be towards Kostiantivka. They're now just 5 kilometers away. That's a dangerous push.
And Chasiv Yar, that finally fell.
Yes, sadly. After 2 long years of incredibly intense fighting. The Russians haven't fully capitalized on it strategically yet, but its fall definitely opens up potential paths towards Kramatorsk and Slovyansk.
The human cost you mentioned, 7,000 to 15,000 Russian casualties per month, killed and wounded.
That's the estimate, yes. Staggering numbers. And tragically, Ukrainian losses are reported as not significantly lower. It's just horrific attrition.
It sounds like the actual tactics have changed dramatically, too, because of things like drones.
Oh, fundamentally. Drones have, in effect, cleaned the battlefield.
Yeah.
Any concentration of troops is just too vulnerable.
So how do soldiers even operate?
Very dispersed defensive positions. Maybe just 2 or 3 soldiers in a small dugout or trench segment. Reserves are kept much further back, maybe 5-10 kilometers, to avoid artillery and drone strikes.
And you mentioned the Ukrainian innovation, the Frankensams.
Yes, adapting those older Soviet-era launchers to fire Western missiles like the Sparrow air-to-air missile, mainly against drones and cruise missiles. Ingenious adaptation under pressure.
But the close-quarters combat sounds absolutely brutal.
Unbelievably so. Chaotic. There are even reports, and some video evidence, of false flag incidents. Soldiers in similar-looking uniforms infiltrating enemy patrols.
You mean tricking each other?
Yes. There was this shocking video of a Ukrainian soldier encountering Russians who apparently mistook him for one of their own, and he had to react instantly. It just highlights the sheer chaos and desperation at the very front.
With all this, the fighting, the cost, is there any movement at all towards a political solution? Any light at the end of this tunnel?
Honestly, not really, not yet. The political positions seem frozen.
We hear ideas floated like Viktor Orban's plan for a divided Ukraine.
Yes, proposals like that surface Russian zone, demilitarized zone, Western zone, but that's completely unacceptable to Kiev, obviously.
And Russia.
Russia continues to reject any talks that don't start by acknowledging their current territorial control.
While Zelensky insists on full territorial integrity before talks.
Exactly. He says he wants to talk, but not about ceding territory.
Yeah.
So you have these maximalist positions on both sides. It really raises the question, what is the path forward?
Is a frozen conflict the only realistic, if awful, possibility right now?
Realistically, some form of frozen conflict, maybe with a wide 25-kilometer demilitarized zone on both sides,
Yeah.
that might be the only way to stop the daily killing right now. But there's just no political will for that from either side at this moment.
It's just abundantly clear, isn't it? The world stage is more volatile, more interconnected, more complex than maybe any time in recent memory.
Absolutely.
From those drone incidents over Poland to the exercises to the trenches in Ukraine, the lessons are stark and often pretty challenging.
And what really stands out, I think, is that while we're pouring billions into defense hardware,
Mm-hmm.
the real challenge might be in our strategic thinking,
Yeah.
our adaptability.
Training the brain, not just building the biceps, as you said earlier.
Exactly. Making sure our policies, our procurement, our doctrines actually reflect these new asymmetric threats we're facing. The innovation battlefield is just as important.
Well, a huge thank you for joining us for this really in-depth discussion today. We sincerely hope breaking this down has given you all a clearer picture of these pressing issues.
And if you're looking for more insights like this, trying to stay informed every day, please do subscribe to our channel. Your support really is vital. It helps us keep these important conversations going.
It really does. And please join us again tomorrow. We'll be shifting gears completely, exploring the fascinating world of psychology, health, and personal development. Definitely something you won't want to miss.